Okay, so this session is being recorded, so just kind of throwing that out there. That way, those of our participants who can't make it in real time are able to watch us later. So today in front of you, you've got me and you've got Dr. Bashara. So my name is Tony Lee-Viney, and I manage the undergraduate program in mechanical engineering. And so what that means is I do a lot of academic advising and programming, different types of things like that. And one of the big things that I've been working on quite a bit is some education abroad opportunities for our students. And then I'll let Dr. Bashara introduce himself.
So, hi, I'm Sam Bashara. If you guys don't mind, I'd appreciate it if you could turn your webcams on so we can kind of pretend like we're doing this in person. If you don't want to, that's fine. Cool. Yeah, you did. Hi. So I'm Sam Bashara. I'm an associate professor in the department. I was also, Tony Lee and I kind of worked together to create this program. We're really excited about it. We think it's really cool, and there's a lot of cool opportunities for you here. So I've been teaching at CSU for a while now, and we're really excited about the launch of this program.
Awesome. Well, okay, so there's this first slide just kind of, I just love this quote: "One's destination is never a place, but a new way of seeing things." And then we've got a couple photos up here of, these are engineering students here at CSU who've gone abroad. We'll have some different photos throughout, because I think one of the most exciting parts about all of this is getting to see the kinds of places you can maybe go and visit. But this particular program has some real awesome benefits that we're going to discuss today, so that you have a sense of what this opportunity might be like for you, and whether it would be a good fit for you. So I'm going to launch into kind of move through to right into the next slide. So this is going to be a small cohort of students who will participate in this program. So you can see there 10 to 16, and this is College of Engineering students. So you might be, we're both from the mechanical engineering department, but you may be going into a different major within the College of Engineering, or considering to do a different major in the College of Engineering. This is open to all of you. And so what's going to happen is you'll have Dr. Bashara and myself, and we will help guide you through a program in Berlin, Germany. And we both were quite intentional about the location we chose, for a lot of different cultural reasons, as well as engineering specific reasons. And so this is going to be such an amazing experience. And so when this program will begin, it'll actually begin right before the semester starts this next fall. And so it will begin with students being on campus for about a week. And during that week, you will kind of get to know the people you're going to be traveling with. You'll have some introductions to like safety and whatnot. We'll get more into specifics in a couple more slides here. And then you'll also do some studying and some academic work during that week in preparation for your time abroad. So this is technically, even though you'll be doing this course before the fall semester begins, it's considered a fall course. And the reason it's considered a fall course is because then it's all counted in towards your that works better for you in terms of tuition and funding, because at CSU or at any institution of higher education, the more credit hours you take at one time, the less money it costs per credit hour. And so as part of the program, there are there's going to be some requirements post return from the abroad experience, and we can talk a little bit more about that too, but that's a general overview of what this would expect here. Let's see. So in terms of when you are in Berlin, you will have the opportunity to visit different industry sites. And some of those sites include BMW motorcycle plants, the Berlin Brandenburg Airport, and Deutsche Bahn, and among others. This is a way for you to connect with what is it, to step outside the classroom. Of course, if you're going to be in Berlin, you're stepping into another country and exploring an area with cultural references, but also industry in different, because there's a lot of different ways you can take your career in engineering. And so this will give you a little taste of some options. And then there's some historic and cultural sites, and you can see those listed there. Sam, Dr. Bashar, do you want to talk a little bit about those, the industry options and the historic and cultural sites?
Yeah, so this is something that we're actually really excited about. This is going to be really cool. Um, so in addition, so it's just for example, bringing about your motorcycles is probably pretty self-explanatory. They make motorcycles in Berlin. But the Berlin Brandenburg Airport is, we're really excited about. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but this is this huge engineering disaster. The Berlin Brandenburg Airport actually just recently opened this week. And the reason it's super interesting is that, again, it's had all these engineering mistakes, and they're going to let us go and see those. So for example, the air filtration system was designed by someone who lied about their engineering credentials and it ended up not working. So they built it and then it didn't work. And then they found out he lied and there's this big scandal and it cost billions of euros to fix. And then it turned out that the fire suppression system didn't work. And so just as an example of how big of an engineering disaster this was, they actually had to hire a group of like 25 to 30 people to walk around and flush toilets all day because the Brandenburg airport is so big, um, that it took 25 people, and if you didn't circulate the water enough in the bathrooms, they were designed in such a way that they kind of expected lots of circulation. Anyways, it was just this huge disaster. Super interesting. So we're gonna go there. That's probably the thing I'm most excited about. When it comes to the historical and cultural sites, probably the coolest thing that we negotiated for you was we're actually going to get to crawl underneath the Berlin Wall. So this is when the Berlin Wall was up and Germany was divided into East and West Germany. There was a lot of people dug these tunnels underneath the wall to try to escape East Germany, and those have been preserved. And these are typically off limits to the public, but we've kind of negotiated. I made a not so contrived. We're going to do a lesson, and we're actually going to calculate some forces and that sort of thing about how this tunnel works. Um, but yeah, so we're going to crawl underneath these tunnels. It's going to be it's really cool. Berlin is one of these places where, you know, there is this really strong engineering past. You know, arguably German engineering is the, you know, if American engineering is number one, you know, Japanese are probably like number two. And Berlin is this really interesting place where you've had like you have a lot of industry, a lot of history there, but then there's also a lot of, you know, cultural history as well. So yeah, we're really excited about the opportunities and the the industry and the history piece that we've kind of put together for you.
Yeah, it's a great compliment, to have both of those things inserted into the experience. So here's a little bit more about kind of the details of what the program looks like. And so I think on the previous slide, I had noted it starts in August. We have actually bumped it up. So these dates are correct, where it will be end of July. And the reason we did that is so that there's a little bit of a buffer point between when you return and when the semester begins. And that way you have time to move in and everything. So it's all quite intentional to make it work best. So you can see here, you come on a Sunday, you get settled into, you'll stay in a residence hall. And this won't be the same room that you'll have when you're a student here. This is kind of like for the week, you stay in the residence hall, you'll have dinner with current students, and you'll just kind of get yourself ready for this next upcoming week. And during that next week, you'll do some deep dive into MECH 103, which is the course that Dr. Bashara will be teaching you. And I'll let him talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But you'll move into a lot of that content. And then at the end of the week, you'll have a kind of a health and safety orientation, which is super important as you're getting ready to go abroad. The university will provide you with that opportunity. And then we'll all depart for Berlin. So given, you know, time differences, you'll arrive there the next day. And then you'll begin exploring different sites in the area. And there's also, we have access to a classroom in the city. We won't be spending a ton of time in the classroom. That's just more of a opportunity to discuss and come together and reflect, because most of the experience is going to be out in the city. You'll get to have an opportunity to just kind of get to know the area and have those cultural experiences and connect them to what you're learning for the Intro to Mechanical Engineering course. And again, if you're not going to be a mechanical engineer, this is still a course you can take. And then, so you'll be in Berlin and for about 10 days, and then you'll return back to the US. And you'll have about a week to move into the residence halls. And there's also some activities that incoming students will participate in before the semester begins. And it's a nice way to connect with people. And then when fall classes begin, you'll actually you'll have completed the majority of the work for MECH 103. There will be some project work that you'll continue to work on for a few weeks into the semester. But otherwise, most of your class has been completed by the time you hit the first day of classes. So Dr. B, do you want to talk a little bit about MECH 103?
Sure, yeah. So you'll notice that there's some of the words that we used here, like intensive week. This is going to be, so in order to make it, we didn't want to fly to Germany and make it so that you just have to sit in a classroom in Germany. So we're really, that intense week before, we're going to go real fast, and it should be okay. So we're going to go over units. We're going to go over Excel. We're going to go over MATLAB. Those are kind of the three main topics that we talk about in MECH 103. So these are that, and again, these are applicable to all engineering majors. So again, that was kind of intentional to make sure that if you decide that you really want to do chemical engineering, you're still getting a strong foundation on, introduction to engineering. So yeah, so we're going to do an intensive week. We're going to really work hard. You and I and your cohorts are going to be in the classroom, probably 8 hours a day. It's not going to just be me talking for 8 hours. It's going to be a lot of hands-on activities, a lot of working on things, but it's going to be intense. And again, the reason is so that when we're in Germany, we can go have fun, right? We can do cool things and not worry about content as much. We will be doing a little bit though, don't get me wrong. We are going to be looking at different projects. And like I mentioned with, doing the underground tunnel things and doing calculations there. But we really wanted to kind of make it more about the experience with, industry, talking to other German students, things that you can't do here in the US. And then there is going to be a project, and this is something that all MECH 103 students do, and that's kind of going to be what you work on when you come back with your classmates. Is you'll have a project. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of work, but hopefully you're the type of person that enjoys that sort of thing, right? It's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a very unique opportunity. So I'm not trying to scare you. I don't want to scare you. It's not so much work that you're going to drown. But it is going to be, this isn't party abroad, it is study abroad. So, but we will do a little bit of partying. So anyways, yeah, I think that's kind of
Yeah,
what I
that's
wanted to
great.
say.
Thank you. Yeah. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about the kind of student that would be well situated for this kind of program, and that will kind of tie in to what Dr. B just was talking about. With housing, so there's two components of the program, right? You're at CSU's campus prior to going abroad, and on campus you'll be connected with a space to stay in the residence halls. So we'll work on setting that up on our end for you. Same thing within Berlin. We'll have that all set up, and we'll either have students housed in shared hotel rooms, or there's a program partner on site, and actually the picture I believe that you can see there is one of the possible residence options. And so it just kind of depends on the other programs happening at the time. Either way, they're really nice locations, really nicely centered in the city, and also good accommodations within them. And then meals, so on campus there will be 3 meals a day included as part of the cost for the program. While in Berlin you'll have daily breakfast, and then 2 dinners are provided. And we chose that just because you're going to want to, like, part of traveling is exploring the food, and so it's nice to have a combination of, here, we're going to show you some food that you might want to try, and then also you kind of identifying, okay, here's what I'm going to do for lunch, and so I think that's kind of the best of both worlds kind of an option. So that's kind of what the housing and meals looks like. I'm going to actually give Dr. B a chance to tell you a little bit more about himself. So he did a brief intro at the beginning, but Dr. B, do you mind answering these questions here?
No, totally fine. So I'm Sam Bashar. So where am I from? I grew up in Seattle, Washington. For those of you maybe more familiar with the Pacific Northwest, I actually grew up in Tacoma, Washington, which is like maybe a little bit smaller of a city and a little bit south. Where did I study? So I did my undergraduate studies in biomedical engineering at Washington State University. And then I actually got a job in Fort Collins. I worked in industry for a little bit before getting my PhD at Colorado State University. So I actually got my PhD here. And then I've kind of bounced around all over the place before I ended up back here. Um, my favorite place that I've ever traveled, I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but it's probably Berlin. And it's because it is this really cool city. It's very vibrant. There's a ton of arts. It's kind of, it's got this like real, I don't know how to describe it. As like it's real, right? It's kind of grungy in a good way. It's like very artistic. It's beautiful. The people there are wonderful. Um, it really is. It's a really fun city. It's like an international city in a very literal sense. Like there's just people from all over the world there. I really enjoyed traveling to Berlin. It's a really beautiful town. Um, I enjoy teaching engineering courses because I have two daughters, and I am optimistic about the world when I teach engineering courses and I see the exciting students. I guess this is kind of answering both of these questions, why I enjoy teaching students. It's because you guys give me hope. You know, it seems like when we read the news and we are constantly caught in this negative cycle, it's constantly bad. Everything's bad. You know, it's the Democrats or it's the Republicans or it's whatever it is. It doesn't matter. But the reality is that if we had news about, you know, young students building new prosthetic devices for people that can't afford them, which is projects that we've done here at CSU, building swings for a person with intellectual disabilities whose favorite activity is swinging, you know, those sorts of projects, and seeing how the new students are engaging with engineering, passionate about making the world a better place. Um, it makes my job very fulfilling. And so, yeah, that's kind of combining those two questions. And then what am I most excited about with this new program? It's the opportunity to get to know you all, right? So this is a very intimate thing, right? You know, it's going to be a very small group of people. We're all going to travel together. Um, and we're going to get to know each other, right? We're going to get to know our strengths, our weaknesses, you know, what we're afraid of, what we're excited about. And so for me, getting to know all of you and in a way that is very unique from, you know, an instructor's perspective is really exciting for me. A lot of the times I have, you know, kind of superficial relationships with my students, which is natural. But this is going to give us the opportunity to really get to know each other, know what you're excited about. And you know, that opportunity to work with motivated, excited students is exciting to me.
Nice. And that picture is in Berlin, right? Yeah. So
Yeah, that was at this like amazing. So again, Berlin is like this crazy place. You know, there's a lot of German stuff. Obviously, it's Germany, but this was actually at a Lebanese restaurant that I went to in Berlin. That was like really good. Like some of the best Lebanese food I've ever had. Um, and that's what, and again, that's why it's so cool, right? Is I got like Turkish food, Lebanese food. Um, you know, I went to like a traditional like German restaurant. Um, and so you really get, it's a really cool place with a lot of cool things. But yeah, that is from Lebanese restaurant in Berlin.
and then I'll share a little bit about myself. I am from the Midwest, grew up in the Chicago area, and then moved to southern Wisconsin. And so I've been here in Colorado for gosh, like 15 years. I actually came out for my master's degree at CSU, so I've never left. I studied at a tiny little liberal arts school in the middle of Wisconsin called Ripon College, and then came out here for my master's. So I studied at CSU. I'm an alum here too. And during that time, I also had an opportunity to study in Spain over a summer, and then study in DC at American University for a semester. One of the most favorite places that I've traveled is actually in this picture. It's Santorini in Greece, and just absolutely gorgeous. Best sunsets in the world. The food is fantastic. And for me, like, so I see it says, why do you enjoy teaching engineering courses? Well, I don't do that. My role is to advise students and work with students and create programs like this. I have taught public speaking before, and do enjoy, for me, What I do now is teaching, but in not this typical sense you see it. So I work with students and coach them through different things and help them meet their goals. And for me, it's being able to have a little bit more personalized experience. That said, it can be like kind of like what Dr. B said, I might see you for 30 minutes for a semester, and it's really rewarding when I get to connect with you on a deeper level. And so a program like this is really neat because then you get to make those connections and really get to know people and what makes them tick and what their goals are. And I particularly like working with new students because y'all like come in and you have this energy about you, and it's really amazing. And it's uplifting and energizing for me. So I definitely thrive with working with students, and I particularly like the energy of new students. So we'll kind of move forward. We wanted to give you a little bit about us because we'll be connected with you with this program, and be nice to know, like, who's taking me to Berlin? What's this going to be like? And so that's why we spend some time doing that. This is Dr. B actually headed to Berlin in this photo, and wanted to just take a moment here to talk about the program benefits, because I feel very strongly in this. As I said, like, I've been doing work with student success initiatives for over 10 years at CSU, and during that time have really kind of identified some things that are helpful for students to be successful. One of those things is transitions. Transitions can be challenging. I mean, they're challenging for all of us. So, coming into a university or something new in general can be hard, and it likely will be at times. And yet there's a lot of support and resources available to help smooth that out. But you'd be going through a transition when you come to the university. What I like about this program is you get started on that transition just a little bit early in a more intimate environment where you can connect with people who are going to be studying alongside you and people who are going to be supporting you through your education. And having those connections can really help when you're feeling like you're trying to establish a community and you're launching at the same time into coursework. And so taking some of that a little bit ahead and kind of dipping your toes in a little bit ahead of time can help make that transition a little bit more seamless. The other thing that's really beneficial is you earn credit for one course, but you complete 2 degree requirements, and that's a little confusing. So let me explain what I mean by that. So basically, by taking MECH 103, you're completing that requirement, that course. And depending on your major, that might show up differently in terms of what it actually completes. If you're mechanical engineering or biomedical mechanical engineering major, it will complete your introductory course and you'll move on to the next one. And then also you complete a requirement called Global and Cultural Awareness. It's a university general education requirement. And what happens is just by going abroad, the university says, hey, I think that you've had a global cultural experience. Therefore, we're waiving this requirement. And so instead of, if you weren't to go abroad, you'd be taking a specific course to complete that requirement. But this program will just make that just kind of go away, which is nice because it gives you a little bit more breathing room during your academic career. And then getting to know the engineering community better and sooner. I kind of mentioned that already, and having that help with a transition, but also helping I know when I talk with students, and from my own personal experience, going abroad can be one of those really amazing things where you're thrown into something new and different, and everybody is in kind of this survival mode of like, I don't know. And so therefore I'm gonna talk to you, or I'm gonna get to know you. I'm gonna put myself out there a little bit more. I find that deeper relationships are formed that way because you are kind of in this immersive experience together already, and therefore oftentimes people will immerse themselves in friendships and establish those friendships more easily. And so that to me is one of the coolest things about going abroad. I'll hear from students who've gone abroad and made connections with people that they've studied with just for a semester that after graduation, they're more strongly connected to than students that they've been with throughout their whole time during their undergraduate career. So it's interesting like how that turns out. And then you'll receive early mentorship from a MECH faculty member, which is really nice because you have an opportunity to get to learn from somebody who understands what helps students be successful and where students are challenged and how to kind of overcome those things and help guide you through that. That's available to you as a student at CSU. However, it can be sometimes intimidating. And so having somebody who you're connected with through this kind of program will help that mentorship be a lot more seamless. And then I love the idea of gaining an understanding of the global engineering context. Dr. B talked a little bit about that context, and recognizing that, you know, there's a lot we can learn from people who are doing this kind of work throughout the world. And this is one spot on the map, right? But definitely an influential one in terms of the world of engineering. And so there's a lot that we can learn from our colleagues out in Germany. And then the other thing, this experiencing smaller class sizes, this is an interesting one because most of the time people take MECH 103 their fall semester and then the next course in their spring semester. And so what that means is you're actually going to be sort of taking MECH 103 before you get here. And so you'll launch into the next one, the next course that's usually in the spring, you'll launch into that in the fall. And what happens is you'll have a smaller group of students that you'll be studying with because it's off cycle, but ahead. And so that is a benefit so that you have just a smaller class size experience. And I shared that this program in particular will be up to 16 students, which is our MECH 103 class is typically about 80. So 16 students versus 80 definitely is a benefit. And then I'll note that CSU, our university, has done a lot of research, and actually this is something that's researched in higher education across the country, that students who go abroad have higher rates of graduation and higher success. And that, I think, part of that is because students who are choosing to go abroad have a desire to learn and grow and be vulnerable. And also because going abroad can be inspirational. So it's kind of both things, right? Like you might have somebody who might already probably be more successful because of those kinds of attributes and characteristics, but also, you know, the experience is often quite influential. And again, in my over a decade experience of just having conversations with students and advising, students routinely cite education abroad as their favorite experience from college. And then students who have abroad experiences stand out with employers. This is huge. We actually have an advisory board for our department. We have one also for the college. And this is something that they're representatives from industry, from different types of companies. And they all speak to how this is something that they get excited about when they see this in an applicant, because again, it's somebody who's willing to kind of be vulnerable, open up their mind to different things and learn. And often you learn quickly. There's a maturity that I see in people who've had these types of experiences where, you know, they leave to go, and then when they return, I meet with them and it's like, oh my gosh, you're like a different person in really cool ways. And so, yeah, it's something that students also appreciate being able to talk about when they have interviews with employers for either internships or jobs after college. So, Dr. B, do you have anything that you'd want to add to that slide?
Nope, I think you covered it really well. I guess the only thing I'd finish with is that it's a huge advantage. This is like a big step up. You know, being in small, teeny tiny class, 10 to 16 students, you know, the educational experience is going to be, I mean, there's nothing like it in the College of Engineering. I mean, there's not one class that you can take that's going to be in that small, which is really cool because it gives you the opportunity to drive the class a lot more. When I have a class of 80 students and 70 of them, you know, are doing something, it's hard to kind of steer. But when we've got 10 and 3 of you want to do something crazy, we can just do it. So it really, it's a much different experience, and it's going to be a really unique one.
Awesome. And so this is just a quick slide to show the application process. I've got a contact for you at the end of all these slides for who you should reach out to with questions, who's going to be much more knowledgeable than we will because they organize the process. They're in the Education Abroad office at CSU. But this is these dates here show you kind of what you're looking at in terms of a timeline. Now, we recognize like things are up in the air with the way the world is right now. What and I would confirm this with the contact that I'll provide at the end, but so there's a $50 fee to submit an application. If this is canceled because of COVID related reasons, and I'm hopeful and optimistic that it won't be, that this will continue, things will be different, that application fee will be provided back to you. So wanted to throw that out there. So what I recommend, and when I talk with students is, if this is of interest to you, keep the door open. If for some reason it has to get shut for, things out of our control, then we'll find, another another path forward. So early application deadline is March 1st, and then the final application deadline is April 1st. And students will submit a personal essay, a recommendation form, and you'll participate in a brief virtual interview. And the reason we do that is because we want to make sure that this is the right fit for you too. And there is a maturity that we want you to have to be able to go into this. We also recognize you're representing CSU and you're representing the College of Engineering, and it's important to us that you're good representatives for us. And so we'll have a informal interview just to kind of talk through like why you're interested in things like that. So that's a bit about the process. And if you see on this next slide, this shows a little bit about, like, if you go to the website for myedabroad.collegestate.edu, you can kind of see it up in that link there. You'll come across some more information that go into more detail about housing and meals and dates and deadlines and the whole application process. And that's where you'll submit your application. So you've got that there. And then this comes back to what I just mentioned about the kinds of students we're looking for. I think I'll let Dr. B, do you want to speak to this?
Yeah. So, this is trying to give you some hints on how to craft your application. And it's also what we're looking for. So first off, open-minded, right? And this maybe seems obvious, but we're looking for students that want to experience new things. This is not going to be comfortable all the time. You're going to be in a different country. People aren't going to be speaking English. This is going to be different. So we want you to be open to those types of experiences. That's also calls to the adaptable, right? We want you to be adaptable. We want you to be able to read a situation, understand how to react in a way that is appropriate. So by the way, we're not just going to throw you into this. Part of what we're going to do that week before we leave is give you some cultural tips. There are some slightly different norms than the United States. As just a little tidbit, it's people in Germany get annoyed when you talk to them in English, but if you start in Germany, you just say something like, "I'm sorry, I don't know how to speak German," like it softens them up. So there's also these little cultural things that you need to learn. Integrity, this is going to be something that you're going to have to do a lot of things on your own, that I won't necessarily be able to look over your shoulder all the time to make sure you're not cheating or something like that. So we need students that are in this, they want to do well, right? So having that personal integrity and that sort of conscientiousness with your work is super important. Again, respect, being respectful to not just myself and Tony Lee, but also to the people, to the places that we're going. We're going to go to some pretty heavy places. It's really cool and it's very interesting. For example, one of the cultural places that we're going to go to is called the Topography of Terror, and it's the old SS. It's the old SS grounds. So where the SS used to do some pretty horrible stuff. And so it's really, really important, especially to me, to be very respectful, right? This isn't a time to take when we're there, you don't take your Instagram pictures and that sort of thing, right? And again, we'll talk about all that, but we want you to be respectful and to be respectful of the history and of the culture. Inclusive, everyone is welcome to this trip, and it doesn't matter, inclusive covers everything, religion, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, whatever, everyone is welcome. And that's going to be really important. If you're not someone that's comfortable with that, then this trip isn't for you. Everyone's welcome. It doesn't matter who you are, what you believe. We all want to go to this. We want to learn. We want to experience this together. But that's going to be very important, right? To be inclusive of everyone. And that kind of ties into the supportive team member, right? We're expecting you to this cohort of people that's going to go on this trip is going to become close. We're going to become we're going to be a thing is the goal, right? So we want you to be together with this. Again, maturity, it just comes into, you're going to be in Berlin by yourself. I'm not going to hold your hand the whole time. You're going to be in Kreuzberg, which is a really cool neighborhood in Berlin. There's lots of coffee shops. There's lots of things going on. Um, and we don't want students that are going to go and embarrass us, right? So we don't want to be in the news because some study abroad kids were arrested because they were vandalizing something, or they were being disrespectful, or right. This is going to be reflective of, my professional reputation, Tony Lee's professional reputation. We're relying on you to be a good representative for us and our university. So that maturity is super important, right? When it's Saturday and it's your day off and you can go do whatever you want, we'll give you some um, hints and ideas and that sort of thing. We're expecting you, we're trusting you, right? We're not your dad, we're not your mom, we're your advisors, but it's up to you to really be responsible. So that maturity piece is huge. And it's one of those things that even immature people, they know, right? Like, no one ever does something immature and doesn't know it's wrong. So um, and I guess some of these things, I don't mean to scare you. I'm not trying to be negative. We're really excited about this. And a lot of these are probably self-evident, right? Like, it should be obvious if you're going on a study abroad trip that you need to be open-minded. But we just wanted to reiterate these things because this is really what we're looking for, right? This is not, again, it's not party abroad. We want you to be respectful, to kind of breathe in the history and the culture and the engineering, right? There's a lot of really cool German engineering. United States, you could say it was founded in the 1700s. White people have been here since the 1400s, but our history is not very long, right? Germany has this rich, like, really old engineering history. They've done some really cool things. And so, we want you to breathe all this in, but at the same time, we don't want to be looking over our shoulders and making sure that you're behaving the whole time. That should never come up, is the goal.
Awesome. Thank you. And then on this slide, the cost of the program is listed here. The approximate piece is because it depends on the flights. So this is what the so it'll be around that amount, but it shifts because we have to secure airfare, and we can't do that until a little bit later. And then I want to just mention that, as Dr. B said, this program is for everyone. And if that cost feels like it's out of your reach, we will have scholarships available. And we want you to apply, even if you're unsure about being able to pay for it, because you might get some support for it. And so there's some important scholarship information. There's a big scholarship application that CSU does called the CSUSA. So CSU scholarship application is what that stands for. And the deadline for that is March 1st. And you'll see a link there, but that's all on the financial aid website. This is being recorded, so you could always go back to this session and refer to it later if you wanted. And then also the Education Abroad Office, in addition to the CSUSA, has a common scholarship application, and the deadline for that is April 15th. And I highly recommend you do both of those things. One thing I'll share is that the cost to do summer courses, so you're taking these courses in the summer, but we've kind of put them into the fall, is quite a lot. And so if you're somebody who's like, you know what, I want to do 4 years, oftentimes it just depends on how many credits you transfer in, if you did AP, all kinds of things. So there's a lot more behind that to unpack. But oftentimes a summer course or two is important in order to find balance overall. So I just shared that that you will find that while the cost can seem a little steep, if you start to explore how much would it cost to do summer courses, you'll find that it's actually incredibly reasonable. And like I said, we want to make sure this is accessible for everyone. So please do apply for scholarships if that's a barrier. And then most of your federal, state, or institutional aid or can be used for education abroad programs. And so that's another thing to realize, is that if you're getting different kinds of aid through different scholarships at CSU, that you can use those funds to go towards these scholarships. And you can, it says most, so you can confirm that before you commit to the program. So throwing that out there as well. All right, with that, We have a few minutes, definitely open to questions, and we've got a small enough group, so if you want to just unmute and ask your questions, feel free to do that. So I'll give you all, and before I do that, I guess you'll see the contact information on this slide. So my information is on there for the academic information, and then for the application and logistical information, you'll see Drew's information there. So feel free to reach out to either of us, and we'll be happy to answer questions that come up later. But go ahead and share if you have any questions now.
If like engineering students want to go abroad, is this like typically what they do, or are there other options like as you go farther along?
Yeah, good question, Alexis. There's all kinds of options. And so this is just one of many. And so some students will choose to go abroad for a whole semester. Some choose to go abroad for a summer, and some will choose like spring break or winter break kind of abroad programs. And so it really, in terms of like the length of time and the big, as big of a program or small, there's quite a few options. And, so you can really kind of choose from all those things. You can also do multiple things. Yeah, good question.
I guess the only thing I'll add is there's the caveat is that a lot of those programs they don't tie in quite as well. I know there's one in Swansea that's really good. But yeah, so there's always this trade-off, right? There's always pros and cons. And so one of the pros behind this program is kind of the way that it gets you ahead, right? Like you get a little bit ahead. A lot of the other senior design programs, again, or not senior design, sorry, study abroad programs, they're really good. And I'm not trying to oversell this, but they're not quite as good at getting you ahead as this one is in terms of your curriculum, right? So that's, I guess, the trade-off.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for unmuting your webcam. It's like nice to see a face. It's really nice for us. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Hey, this is Jackie here. I work with recruitment, so I've seen some of you throughout the day today. So hello again. I just wanted to put a quick plug in that we are doing sessions all day on Saturday as well. And at 10 a.m. we have a session dedicated to education abroad experiences for engineers. So that will cover the majority of programs, and we can answer questions there as well outside of the Berlin program. So there's lots of opportunities. Also, the Department of Chemical and Biological Engineering is starting up a program very similar to this as well. So if you have other interest areas in engineering, just know there's an opportunity to go abroad tied to those.
Thanks, Jackie. Okay, we've got like 2 minutes left. Any other questions for us? Cool. Well, thank you all for joining us today. You've got our contact information, so if anything comes up, don't hesitate to reach out. Good luck with your journey as you kind of figure out your next path. And if this ends up fitting in, we look forward to being able to explore the world with you. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Jackie. I'm not sure if I stopped the recording or not, so I'm trying to do that.
And sorry I
Still
was late
recording.
to this one. I appreciate you all.